We're just going to talk briefly about email marketing. So I see email marketing as kind of a channel extension of your content strategy, because typically, something you need something to get people into your email list before you start email marketing them, and that something would be your entire content strategy. So email marketing is not a strategy, it's actually really tactical. And so because it's really tactical, my presentation that I give on it is purely tactics of how to get your emails through to people. So your email marketing is, I don't know how much people already know about email marketing, so we'll just start with like medium level. Your email marketing won't work if people aren't opening or getting your emails, right? People, like that's logic. They have to actually see your emails in order for it to convince them to do whatever thing that you want. And so this presentation is all about that, about convincing them, but before you convince them, actually getting it in front of them. All right, so it's called Open Rate Enemies, and we're just going to quickly go over all the different things that are making your emails not get opened. Now, can I just, before I start, so I kind of know who I'm dealing with here, how many people in the room right now are already doing email marketing of some kind, or whatever you think is email marketing? Okay, a good number. And what kind of open rates are you guys getting? Can you please shout it out? And shout out your open rate, and then like what list size. Don't worry, nobody on the live stream can hear. Anybody else? Some guys in the back, you had raised your hand. Yeah, any emails, anything that you would consider, however you define email marketing, I define it as that. Any emails that you're sending. Okay, I don't know how many people are on the live stream now, as it's kind of late, but I will not repeat the numbers, but I will say that they were quite low. And so that to me signals, because I assume everybody here is pretty smart and you do a good job at your jobs. And so that to me smells of some open rate enemies here. There's a lot of technical things you can do actually to improve your open rates. And there's a lot of content things you can do, but even before the content things, there's just some pure technical things that, judging by the sound of these open rates, sounds like you guys haven't done. I'm just going to bet, because otherwise you'll probably be seeing better numbers. And it's very common, don't feel bad. A lot of people haven't done this stuff. Now, we won't go in the order of technical to non-technical. We'll just go in the order of this presentation. The first open rate enemy is images. So images I feel really bad because this is a 500 startups email from the events team, and they work really hard, but this email did not perform. Now, these were actually animated GIFs at the top there with those cards. And if you know anything about email marketing and images, you would know that animated GIFs are the riskiest thing you can put. Besides a bit.ly URL, an animated GIF is the riskiest thing you can put in your email, because it is just so... just says spam all over it. And so this can really hurt your open rate in one of two ways. Either one, it won't even get through and it'll bounce. Or two, it'll go to like a promotions inbox, or it'll go to a spam folder. So some place where the recipient's not even going to see it. And again, if the recipient doesn't see your email, then your open rate is going to be necessarily much lower, because they didn't even get a chance to decide whether or not they wanted to open your email. And so I would highly suggest thinking about, like, in this email, if you look at this email, what is doing the selling here? Are these images doing any selling? Like, treat every single element of copy, of image, of button, every single element as if it were an element on a landing page, and ask yourself, okay, if this were my employee, if this were like a salesperson on a sales team, and he or she weren't selling over and over again, would they still have this job, or would they be fired? And so then, bringing it back to your email, ask yourself, why do I keep doing these same things, employing these same bad salespeople, but they're not actually doing the job for me? Images are those bad salespeople because they typically really block your emails from being delivered and being opened. Like here's another one that's an example of an image doing its bad sales job. This image doesn't really say anything. If you're not already very familiar with Demo Day, you would have no idea what this email is about or what it's trying to persuade you of. And because the image is so big, it's full column and it's above, occupies all of the above the fold space, it really blocks your recipient's attention from the rest of the email. That is, if they even open it. But again, like I said before, and I will emphasize 100 times, images prevent your emails from being opened. And that's because of deliverability, and because once they do get delivered, they might end up in spam or in some less important tab. All right, so does anybody have questions about images, or anybody want to say, but? Usually, because there's usually some of that in the audience, and I can feel like usually people have some questions like, oh, well, I'm in e-commerce, I have to include images of my product. Or what about like images of my logo? Don't they need to know what company I am? Or what about like, this cool line or this like box that I can put behind my text? Doesn't that make my email look nicer? Were those the questions you were wondering? Perhaps? Another question? It's fun. I know they look good and it's like really fun to design them, but email marketing the success of your email marketing hinges on deliverability. Deliverability is the number one issue for most people's email marketing, which I will get more into in a little bit. But if you want to have good deliverability, first just do this. And here, just for people on the live stream, in case people have some questions you're not enunciating, if you're a company focused on a beautiful product or an e-commerce and you've got to send a picture of your product, fine, send one picture. Don't make it too big. Don't make a carousel. Don't show tons and tons of other pictures. Don't include lots of design elements. Make your email small and slim so that it can get into the inbox. Think about it that way. If you're not in e-commerce, don't include any pictures. Do not include pictures of your, party or your community event or your founders. That stuff's just not necessary, and it's blocking your deliverability. Links are a different thing. This is just, and links, I will talk about links because it's relevant, but this is just images for right now. Now, let's say you got to include an image of your logo. I would ask you that question back and say, do you really need to include a picture of your logo? How much selling is it doing for you? How much persuading is it doing for you versus the cost of perhaps it could be, costing you in terms of open rates and deliverability. Now, if you're using MailChimp and you're using the free version of MailChimp, you might or might not have noticed that MailChimp puts their logo into your email. And actually, that really hurts open rates because that is going to get it flagged for sure for promotions because Gmail and other email providers know that MailChimp is an email marketing tool and that there's a picture in it, and if not in spam. And so, small takeaway there is to upgrade to a pro version. Big takeaway is really like logos are not as important as the subject line and the other content of your email. So here's a contrasting example from a business this is a contrasting example where I just sent myself a test of that same exact email previously. So here you see this image, and here obviously in the plain text version or the text-only version, it's the text-only version, what stands out the most? The links stand out the most. Now remember, your email can do one of two things. One is it can convey content. It can, you can wedge some content in the story in there so that it's an interaction with the email itself. That's one type of email marketing. Another type of email marketing is your email is just a conduit to send people to a landing page. In many cases, it's going to be the latter for many of you. In the 500 startups case, like in this demo day case here, our job was really not to get people staying in the email for a long time and reading everything in the email. Our job was just to get them to click through to the landing page where they're going to buy a ticket to demo day. And so why were we hiding that call to action behind all of this stuff? Instead, in this really simple plain text version, it's so clear what to do and where you can go. In fact, you just skim the details, okay, date, time, click. So simple. And so that can dramatically improve the conversion, the ultimate conversion rate on an email. The question was, is it better to do long text, the full text link, or a hyperlink? I mean, I think what I would do in this case is really, I prefer to hyperlink a piece of text like click here for more now. Don't do a hyperlink like what you would see on a blog where it's just one word linked or it's kind of an oblique reference. And the reason for that is because the hyperlinking best practices that we use for blogging, those hyperlinks are like kind of reference points. They're like embedded footnotes. We don't actually want people to click through to the footnote. The type of hyperlinking you need to do for an email is a call to action hyperlink. We do want people to click on that hyperlink. And so we have to treat it really differently, meaning the words that we hyperlink have to be really different. If I'm writing a tech blog post about like the Snap IPO and I want to reference like some previous quotes from Evan, or I want to like reference some, you know, like the launch that they did with Spectacles, and I want to reference an article about that. But I don't really want people to click away from my article, do I? I want people to read my whole story if I'm like a TechCrunch blogger. And so I would maybe just hyperlink one little word in there. Now, I think the mistake that we make is that we see that so much that we bring that into our marketing. And we forget that that's actually not the right strategy for marketing, because for marketing, we want people to click through on those links. So we want it to have like a big sign that says, walk through this door now. Not like a little tiny sign that says, oh, here's like an extra reference point. So here's just the quick fixes. If you must have an image, only have one. Include an alt text in your image, because a lot of people don't have the image automatically expanded, and so they might not see anything. But if you include an alt text, at least they'll see some help text and say, you can say, you know, click show all images to see this cool picture of my dog, or whatever curiosity inducing thing. Hey, we included an image of our product. Click to expand images in your Gmail so that you can see the picture of our product. That's image alt text. And finally, just consider reducing the size of your image. Your designers are going to fight with you because small images don't really look that good. You know, for good reason, they'll fight with you. But if you reduce the size of your images, it really does make a difference, because here's why images underperform. It's actually not purely because all images are bad. I kind of lied to you before there. It's really about the ratio between text and images. It's the ratio that matters. It's the ratio that Gmail is reading to determine how promotional, how spammy your email is to the recipient. And so if you have text, a good amount of text, and then you do include an image, it's fine, just as long as the image is not dominating the entire email, in which case the ratio is way off. And this is where links come in too. So somebody previously asked, is it okay to include links to things like YouTube and things like that? Of course it is. Your email is, again, a conduit to send traffic to either a landing page, or maybe if you want to send traffic to a YouTube video, that's fine. It's fine to include links. Just don't include more links than you have text. If you have like 8 links in your email and only like a couple of lines of text, do you know what that looks like to me if I'm Gmail? It just looks like spam. Looks like a phishing scheme. And since I don't really read and I don't really know who you are, I'm probably just going to put it in spam. And so this is why ratio is really important to get a hold of, rather than just like any kind of absolute number. If you're just going to have like a normal sized email, you might put one small image in there, or 0 images ideally, and you might just include like 2 links or 3 links. But if you have very little text and other content in your email and you have like 8 links in there, you're putting yourself at risk of having low deliverability. Okay, so the next email enemy is email size. I don't know how long it's been since you guys have opened an email and seen that the message has been truncated or been clipped. But this is actually, I don't think it's as common anymore, because I think most people sort of have figured it out by now, that you shouldn't make an email so big that it gets automatically truncated by the email service provider. That's really bad for a couple of reasons. Number one, the recipient might miss out on your call to action at the bottom of your email because it simply gets clipped off. Nobody's going to view entire message from here. Very, very few people. So you're just, cutting yourself off from a lot of audience. And then number two, if the message is clipped, a lot of times the tracking pixel to track the opens is actually at the bottom. It's in the footer of the email. And so if it gets clipped, it's not going to load that tracking pixel. So you actually might not get very accurate open rate stats. You might have an artificially depressed open rate because your tracking pixel isn't firing because it was at the bottom of the email because your email was so big that it got clipped. Not super common, probably that case, but the moral of the story is don't make your email so massive and so full of images that it's precluding a healthy click-through. Here is just an example. This was one of our mistaken emails from that we've previously sent here. Not mistaken, but just one that we wanted to include all the logos. It looked really beautiful, but then the message got clipped, and it was actually really hard to figure out how to RSVP to this particular event because the call to action was at the bottom. So that was like a real thing that happened. So quick fixes for that. Keep it, again, cannot say this enough, really just text emails perform very, very well. Invest in some copywriting and invest in your text. You don't need images to distract people if you have really great text. If you want to have really long content, then you can always invite people to click through to a blog post or a landing page to see that whole content. But if you've got like a 5,000 word essay, it might not be so great for your deliverability and for your open rates to cram that entire essay into the email itself. Some people can do that. Some people can send really long emails successfully, and I'll tell you in what case, the only one case in which you can successfully send really long emails. It is when you have built a really strong relationship with your list over the course of years by sending high quality content at a regular cadence, thus training both the recipient and the ESP, the email service provider, that you're a really good sender and you're always going to get through to the main inbox. So successful email marketing hinges a lot on training the Gmail and training the recipient to always open emails from you and to always kind of get through to the inbox. So if you've built a really high quality list and a high quality relationship with that list over time, which probably nobody in this room has because you're all early companies and nobody's like, some kind of email marketing influencer here, then I would not include lots of long content in your email because you're just basically just going to bounce a lot of people. And then another really simple fix is just to always include one version of your call to action near the top, like maybe even in the first paragraph or right after the first couple of lines of your email. If your call to action is schedule a demo or schedule a call with one of our consultants or like check out this ebook or go back to your free trial, I would include multiple instances of that CTA, including one really close to the top of the email so it doesn't get missed by people who have, a lot of drop-off as they read the rest of the email. So here's an example from a business called My Wife Quit Her Job, a guy named Steve. He does a lot of email marketing. He's running a 7-figure business just off of an email list, basically doing all of the selling through email. Pretty successful internet marketer, mechanical engineer by day. This is what I mean by like a super clear call to action that is not oblique, that's not just like a one word, linked hyperlink. It's just so clear. He tells you when it is. He wants you to come to this webinar because the webinar is going to help you, learn more about like getting on board with his info product. So he tells you the time and date of the webinar. He tells you what he's going to cover in really simple, clear language. Okay, how to get set up, how to optimize your Amazon listings, how to run pay-per-click on Amazon. Cool, it's so straightforward. It's not super salesy. He doesn't say like how to 10x, blah, blah, blah. It's just really explanatory. And then he says, click here to sign up for free. These words are so well chosen. It's not only sign up for free, it's click here to sign up for free. And those types of CTAs, those types of hyperlink text CTAs, you'll find typically work the best because it's like holding a really big sign and saying, come here now, everybody, meeting point here. And so it's just a way to direct people's attention because you just keeping in mind, although you are in people's inbox and you tend to have more of their undivided attention, it's not 100%. It's going to be competing with lots of other tabs and lots of other emails, and so you just want to make everything really clear. So let's just hurry along. This one I just want to call attention to because I think a lot of people in this room probably haven't quite gotten this right. You want to make sure that your sender identity and your domain is verified. And this can have an improvement on your email open rates, not just the deliverability, but the open rates themselves of as high as, 5 to 30%. Is like, let's say you started out really bad, it could improve it by 30%. And so I'm just going to skip the examples just to go quicker. Here is where you can figure that out. Just go to mail-tester, mail-tester.com. You can go to this one where it says SPF DKIM check, and it'll tell you whether or not you're verified. Or you can just check your sender score at mailtester.com, and it'll tell you your sender score on a scale of 1 to 10. And if you're below like a 9, then you're going to have some issues with deliverability rates. And don't be embarrassed. I have actually, we had some super smart experts that came in for our Series A program in Miami. And these are people who are like really, really good at growth, really good at marketing. And they didn't know about this. And they did this, and they realized they were out of 4. And that's why their email marketing wasn't working for them. This is people that were giving talks in my position, but they just happened to not be giving talks about email marketing. So this is the easiest way to figure this out is just go here, figure out what your score is, and then the best thing about MailTester is that it'll tell you bullet point by bullet point why your score is low. And all you could just print that out or like copy it and paste it over to a Google spreadsheet and just go through each one of those things and just fix them. Because they're usually technical problems like verification and things like that. I wanted to put in a word of caution about shared IPs here. Most of you guys, I don't know what email marketing tools you're using, but I'm pretty sure, unless you're like super experts in email marketing, that you're using shared IPs. And the only bad thing about shared IPs, the great thing is that they're cheap. The bad thing, and it makes your email marketing tool really affordable. The bad thing is that you're sharing an IP with God knows who. Could be sharing an IP with some kind of like, blackjack spammer or somebody selling like Forex, like foreign exchange courses, currency courses or whatever, like any kind of spammer, right? You don't know who else is on that IP. And that IP actually helps to identify who you are to email service providers. And so if you're on a shared IP, you could be on an IP with other lower quality marketers, and that will actually potentially hurt your deliverability. So in my business at Reforge, we actually, because email is so important to us, it's like the bread and butter of our business, we invested heavily in getting our own dedicated IP, which we got through HubSpot. That was one of the reasons we are using HubSpot as our email provider, was because they offer that. I think Autopilot might offer it. MailChimp does not. I think MailChimp does. Actually, I don't know. They're changing a lot, so you should check if they offer it. They didn't used to offer it. But it's usually one of those things you have to call in to. You have to usually call in to ask about that. And it costs a lot more, but if email is really important to your business, then I would consider going onto a dedicated IP. The next enemy is bad subject lines. And so really like the only thing that makes a subject line really, really bad are trigger words that will cause it to be flagged as spam. And so those are always changing. And what you should do is look up spam trigger words for your email provider, and you'll get lots of information about that. I'll give you a couple examples. Some things are like all caps, exclamation points, words like money or SEO or cash. Those are all really high-risk words that will, basically Google Gmail is looking out for to filter out of their users' inboxes. There's many, many other words that are kind of surprising, like there will be, words like Viagra and things like that, but there are actually some surprising trigger words, and you should just look those up. It's a pretty long list, and so I'm not going to go over that, but be aware that the words that you include in your subject line, I used to just talk about, invoking curiosity and writing great subject lines. I think that's important, but even more important is not being flagged as spam. Because once you get flagged as spam, it actually really hurts like your business forevermore, and it can be very hard to pull yourself out of that. And so other bad subject lines are, ones that are, maybe really boring or just about your business. You, again, really want to create a curiosity gap. And by a gap, I mean you want to invite some kind of, you want to create enough curiosity that the gap is not answered, and so people have to open in order to sort of scratch that psychological itch. I don't have time to get into all of like the user psychology behind words and like really great copy right now, but I have a talk on YouTube, I think, that goes pretty far into that, and you can also just find that stuff free online. So I just want to focus the rest of this talk on stuff that you probably won't find that easily for free online, which is namely how to not be spam, because that's like my big thing right now. Here's some examples. I'm going to skip over those. Some really good subject lines that have worked for me are when I use re or forward. And actually that's now, I don't think that's this. The thing about subject lines is that they're constantly refreshing and constantly changing. And the reason for that is it's a moving target. Subject lines that are really good help to jump past people's banner blindness. Now, banner blindness is constantly expanding. Banner blindness is constantly evolving as people, as consumers, are more and more sophisticated as to what is marketing and, what is advertising. And so anything I put on here is going to basically be instantly outdated within a couple of weeks at the maximum. And actually re and forward it's so abused by marketers now. I made this a long time ago, and now it's so abused by marketers that it's even been like banned by some, like HubSpot won't let you use forward, won't let you put FWD in your subject lines because they know that it's gonna get, trigger spam. But, basically you want to stick to stuff that makes people feel like it's about them and that invokes one of the 6 Cialdini psychological principles. You should look up what those Cialdini principles are. I don't need to go over them here, but they basically have to do with everything that's persuasive. So look up it's Cialdini, Cialdini, psychological principles, principles of influence and persuasion. And so good subject lines always speak to 1 or 2 or more of those influence factors. All right, so this is an example where I got a 67% open rate on an email to the 500 list to 48,000 subscribers, and there was a one-word subject line called changes. Now, when you receive a subject line, the reason why this works is because it invoked tons and tons of curiosity, and also it was a little bit negative. So negative stuff really works. Our brains are just wired to watch out for lions on the savannah, so we're much more attuned to fear and negativity because it can threaten our existence as opposed to opportunity. It's sad, but that's just like how the human brain works. That's how most animal brains work. And so knowing that fact of our psychology, which is really hard to change, you should know that negativity is going to be more effective at converting than positivity, than for better or for worse. And so changes worked really well because it was curious. People didn't know what the changes were about. When you get an email that says changes, it could be something bad, and so they got, everybody opened it. And the reply, incidentally, because the email quality was really good inside the email, the reply rate was really high too. And that sufficed to reactivate the list because it got people interacting with the list again. Next enemy is really bad content. I don't know if we have tons of time to go into this in detail today, but all you have to keep in mind is similar to the customer awareness life cycle that I talked about with the content talk. If you're pushing really hard on your product, or you're giving a hard sell too early, or you're not educating, then you're going to probably be sending bad content, and that will make people a lot less likely to convert on your email. Ultimately, this is an example. This one worked really well. Ultimately, it's really important to send great emails, and what defines great emails is there's not one objective great email. It's actually the right email to the right person at the right time. So segmentation and personalization are extremely important. It's really important to know who you're sending to and speak to them. So if you have early adopters versus your next group, you probably at some point want to be sending different messages to each of those groups and really understanding sort of the time blocking, the time segmentation in their day. Let's say you're Uber and you want to do push notifications. Push notifications, by the way, are just an extension of email marketing. It's just a different form of messaging, right, on a different platform. Let's say you're Uber and you want to send push notifications. Not only would you want to segment your push notifications based on what type of user it is, but also based on the time of day. So the type of push notification you send at 9 p.m. on a Friday night is going to be really different than the type of push notification you send at 12 noon on a Wednesday. Maybe the 12 noon on a Wednesday, you want to talk about, going to lunch with a friend. Maybe the 9 p.m. on a Friday night, it would be appropriate to talk about like ordering some food for your party or ordering some food in for a movie, whatever it is. That's what I'm talking about with really great, not only personal kind of identity segmentation, but also time and place segmentation. And it's a little bit harder to do that with email marketing because you don't get quite as much information about who your user is as you might if you had them on mobile. But you can still sort of basically know, okay, when are people getting off of work? When are people, checking the news? When are people thinking about buying a SaaS product versus totally not thinking about buying a SaaS product, and then mapping your messaging to that? Here are some different ways to segment. You can segment by a lot of different ways, even if you don't know that much about your user. You can always segment by your acquisition channel, which I think is, and your offer that brought them in, which I think is sort of the simplest that anybody can do, because you should know where they came from, right? You should know where they signed up from. And based on that, whether they signed up from Facebook or like sort of a free ebook offer on Facebook versus a blog post about how to do better content marketing, that will tell you different things about your recipient that can inform your segmentation. Yeah. Yell out your question. So segmentation can be a lot of work. One company tried it and it was a lot of work. So what would be like an easier way to get started? That's a great question. I would do I should change the slide. So my recommendation for just getting started, here's literally what I would do, because I've been involved in a lot of email marketing over the past 2 months personally, and I'm doing it like pretty much all myself. So I'm in your same situation where I'm just like, I don't have time to do all this stuff that I say. So here's what I do. I do it based on device, and then I do it based on engagement. So how engaged are those people? I would say engagement's more important than device. You want to send different content to people that have been clicking through to stuff or opening than you do want to send to people who have been opening but not clicking, then you want to send to people who haven't even been opening. If people haven't even been opening and they haven't been opening for a really long time, maybe you shouldn't even be email marketing to them, but you should at least give it one last shot to try to reactivate them. And that content should be really different, obviously, than what you would send to somebody who is so into you that they're clicking through to your landing page. Somebody that's clicking through to your landing page, they just need like a little extra reminders maybe, or some urgency, or a promo, or a deal, or some kind of psychological trigger to push them over the edge. They're already standing at the edge. Somebody who's opening your emails but not clicking on anything, you got to ask yourself, okay, what are they missing? Maybe they need a little bit of more information. And so you want to create your email based on that. And also time your email sends based on that. Somebody who's like opening and clicking, you can probably increase the frequency. Somebody who's, maybe not opening or who's dropping off on their opens, you want to decrease their frequency. That's actually something that doesn't take very long to do, I promise you, because I've done it as a one-person email team. So that would be the simplest. Another question? I think it's really important to there's two things to that. It's really hard to know, And you have to look for, actually today's distro snack was about this, you have to look for negative signals, because a lot of times people won't unsubscribe. They'll just kind of go silent. And that's actually very negative, but you wouldn't know it. So normally your email tool will tell you when people unsubscribe is like a punch in the face. It's really active. But how about all the people, like, let's say I'm up here giving a talk and I offend a bunch of you guys. Like maybe one person in the audience will want to come and give me a punch in the face, and everybody else will go walk away offended and just like quietly be offended, but never want to be my friend again. And so that's actually happening a lot and can happen when you over increase your frequency on emails. So how do you know if that's happening? You can look at, what's happening in your community. You can look at what's happening with support. And one thing that doesn't require talking to users, you can look at the delta in your open rates from campaign to campaign. If you're seeing a big drop off in open rates for the same user across a lot of different, over time, over your campaigns, then that probably means that they're going dormant. And one of the reasons they could be going dormant is because you've blasted them too much or whatever. All right, so your ice cold list. If you have any of the above, you probably have dormant subscribers. And so really quickly, I'm going to just breeze through the next slides because we're running so late here. The main thing for dormant subscribers is that a lot of subscribers are dormant. Don't feel bad. Super common. The main thing is do not let them go dormant. And the main reason why people's subscribers go dormant is actually not what you think. Most of the time, it's because you didn't email them enough. So if you send me an email and then you send me an email again in May as your next touch point, I just won't remember who you are or why I signed up, and I'll either just ignore it or delete it without opening it, all of these silent negative signals, or maybe I'll give you a punch in the face and actually unsubscribe. But dormancy happens when you haven't activated your list and when you haven't maintained that activation with regular touch points and regular contact. And so I almost think it's better, like it's always be collecting for sure, but until you have the resources to actually like map out a good kind of activation series of emails, I wouldn't even really, I would just collect and not even email people. And then I would email people when you're ready to actually email them on a regular basis. So either talk to me regularly or don't talk to me at all. All right, so the most important thing about email marketing is that open rate is a vanity metric. Conversions are what count, which you guys I'm sure know, and a lot of you are in the business of conversions because you're not even a consumer business. And so here are my 3 tricks for getting conversions. Multiple links to the same destination, that always helps, especially if you ever look at like a click map on your email, try this. Try multiple links to the same destination and look at your click map. Guaranteed you will see almost an even split between those clicks. So people need to see it multiple times at the beginning, in the middle, linking a picture or linking a button, and at the end again. Give them multiple opportunities to click through to your landing page. No leaks means your email should not be really sending traffic to a bunch of random places. It should be sending traffic to one action, one landing page, whether if it's complete your trial is what you want them to do, only link to complete your trial. Do not, accidentally also link to your YouTube page or your Facebook page or any other BS like that. And then finally, retarget your unopens. So if people haven't opened your email, chances are they just didn't see it. Don't be afraid to actually send them a very similar or even the exact same email once again and just say, hey, did you see this? That tends to work really well, actually, and has worked on me a lot of times, even when I've been marketed to. So don't be afraid to retarget your unopens. This is an example from Ramit, my friend Ramit at I Will Teach You to Be Rich. All of these links, the image is linked, that top link is linked, and this bottom one, simple step-by-step system, is linked, and they all go to the same sales page. So that's just an example of how basically multiple links, same destination, no other links in the entire email besides here. Yeah, it does qualify as a picture, but it's not very big, and the email's really long. And also Ramit is a special case to all email marketing. He's so good at it, and he's been doing it very, very effectively since about 2005, so that he's built a really strong relationship with his list. His list is trained to open like every other email from him. And so he can afford to do stuff like put in pictures into his emails. Most of his emails are only all text, but for this one, for whatever reason, he's included this kind of bigger button to click through for this product. Finally, the email toolkit. There's tons of email tools out there. I recently did a count of just really obvious ones, and I counted over 40. So how do you decide? I mean, many of them are really good. There's tons of really good options out there. I'm not going to say there's any like really bad ones. Some people really like one option that's not on here is Sendy layered over Amazon Web Services. That's like, good if you want to hack together a more transactional solution. Here's just what I say because it's easier, rule of thumb. Don't think about all of the email marketing tools as like, oh, which one is right for me? Think about which one is right for my stage right now. So in the beginning, MailChimp could do you really well. Medium option would be Autopilot. Actually, Autopilot is moving into the heavyweight option as well. They're capturing upstream and downstream. HubSpot is definitely more upmarket, and it's just really expensive. I probably wouldn't recommend any of you guys use HubSpot unless you can get like the 90% discount that 500 has negotiated with HubSpot. But most of you probably won't be able to do that just because of your scale. So you're probably going to be looking at one of these other two options. I love Autopilot, and they actually have maybe come to give some talks here and sponsored some of our stuff. And I'm saying that not in any kind of sponsored way. It truly is a gem of a tool. And I know the marketing team pretty well there, and they're doing a great job. I always say, you guys do such a good job with marketing. And their response is, you know what? It's really easy when the product is this good. So I think that's true. That's kind of my favorite one of those up there. Here's another type of distinction. So I mentioned Sendy earlier. So that's more if you have like a developer on hand that can really work on your email setup for you. And these other ones are really just off the shelf, very simple. Marketing team alone can handle it. So really quick recap. Images, we all know what to think about images. Include a CTA up front. Don't forget to verify your identity and do all that technical stuff in Mail-Tester. Please just do that. Like, you'll be so thankful when you verify your domain and your sender identity. Do some segmentation, at least in terms of engagement and ideally in terms of acquisition source if you can. Activate your emails. Don't let dormancy even happen by sending your emails on a regular basis right away. And don't forget that open rate is a vanity metric. Conversions are what count. And so make sure that you include multiple links to the same destination and no other leaks. Make sure you have a clear idea of what your conversion actually is. And that's it for this slide. That's it for this deck, I mean. Any other questions? One more question. Thank you. Yeah, I'm a little bit tired. Go ahead. Thank you. You mean double opt-in or not? I wouldn't do that personally. I can understand some. Oh, the question was, should we send cold leads a newsletter and expect them to unsubscribe and opt out? So the question was opt-in or opt-out. I always prefer opt-in, and in fact, I even advocate, if you're really serious about email marketing for the long term, I even advocate double opt-in. It will slow you down in the beginning, but it will help you so much later on because your list really wants to be there. I personally don't like scraping and then spamming. I know sometimes, probably you'll have some mentors come in here and say that they've done that and they like it and all that stuff. But I just think that in this day and age, we really can't afford to lose our early customers. And we also can't afford to, it's really hard to get off those spam lists if something doesn't go well with your sender identity and somebody marks you as spam. So I just feel like the risk isn't really worth it. I would rather create a really great lead magnet and do some content marketing and get people to opt into my list, personally. All right, thank you guys very much. You can come up and ask me more questions later. Thank you. Oh, one question online. I'll take one online question. Oh, thank you so much for the appreciation. It's nice to know that it's helpful. Any email software that can retarget unopens automatically? Not that I know of. I would not want to do it automatically. Email marketing, I just feel like email marketing, and I've been doing it for so long. I have sent so many emails to so many tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people actually at this point. And I still feel really scared every time I hit send. That is a confession. Like the last time, every time I send an email on Fridays to a tiny group of alumni for our program, only 700 people, and I still feel scared when I hit send. You can't take it back, and sometimes you mess it up, and it's like really embarrassing, or you make people mad, or you lose. And those people are your subscribers. You have to treat them with, in my opinion, the utmost of care. And so I would never trust a email tool, any existing email tool, to automatically resend my retargeting emails for me, because already then you're in that zone where you could be pissing people off. And then number two, you don't even get to customize it or like make it, tweak it, or like send yourself 10 different test emails first. I wouldn't feel comfortable with that personally. Okay, thank you very much.